Hello, this is Tony Heller from realclimatescience.com. There's a brand new peer-reviewed study out drawing a link between melting Arctic sea ice and western U.S. fires that flare in the fall. This article comes under the category of science and shows a picture of some trees burning in California. There's a few problems with this study though. The first is that there isn't any missing Arctic ice. Arctic sea ice is almost right at the 1981 to 2010 median edge. The ice is growing very quickly and is just below the 1979 to 2020 average. Extent is the highest in 10 years and second highest in the last 18 years. And there's been no trend in Arctic sea ice extent over the past 15 years. The first problem with the study is that Arctic sea ice isn't melting, and the second problem is that forest fire burn acreage is way down over the last 90 years. The amount of forest which burns every year in the U.S. is down 80% from the mid-1930s. In 1935, the autumn forest fire fighting season was defined as being from October 15th to December 15th. Two of the worst years for autumn forest fires occurred in 1898 and 1871. During the autumn of 1898, most of the northwest quadrant of Colorado was on fire. On October 6, 1898, there were forest fires burning in all parts of Colorado, and towns were threatened with destruction. The autumn 1898 fires were of unparalleled range and damage, and Wisconsin was burning during the autumn of 1898 as well. But 1898 wasn't the worst year for Wisconsin autumn forest fires. The worst forest fires in U.S. history occurred 150 years ago during the autumn of 1871. On October 7, 1871, much of Minnesota was on fire and people were fleeing for their lives. The following day, Chicago burned to the ground. But the worst forest fires on October 8, 1871 occurred in Wisconsin and Michigan. More than 1,000 people in Peshtigo, Wisconsin burned to death on October 8, 1871. Weather conditions across the entire region during the summer and fall of 1871 produced conditions conducive to large, rapidly spreading fires. And Canada's worst forest fire occurred during the autumn of 1825. About 3 million acres burned up in just a few hours. That's more burn acreage than occurred in the entire state of California this year. The authors created their fraudulent study by ignoring all of the fire data prior to 40 years ago. They also ignored the fact that there's been no trend in Arctic sea ice or forest fire burn acreage over the last 15 years. The study was completely fraudulent, but that is the new normal for science. Richard Horton, the editor of the Lancet medical journal, says, "The case against science is straightforward. Much of scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. Academics know that if they say the right things, they'll get more funding from government. In other words, they're being paid to lie." Bill Gates is funding organizations which claim that mathematics is racist. It's unlikely that he actually believes that. But it's much easier to lie to and control a dumbed-down population which doesn't understand mathematics and doesn't understand science. When I was on Twitter, I found that all the time. People who would argue with me frequently lacked basic mathematical skills and didn't understand how to interpret graphs. It's much easier for Bill Gates and his friends to control and extract money from uneducated and ignorant people. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on these scamsters for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Curie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.